Well, howdy folks, welcome back to the shop. So I was asked to make these eccentric bushings here. I have to make two of them, and to give you a little bit of a closer up look, you can see I think the overall idea of this is 1 3/4, and this is 1.375, and then this is I think a little under 7/8 or 0.841, and then you can also see there is a square hole broached into that. I'll make sure on the drawings to make sure everything's I got the right numbers there, but this pin that's in here does not have to be in there according to what I'm understanding. So I can't tell you exactly what this is for, but I was asked to make two of them. And what we're doing is we're making it tighter tolerance. These are fairly tight tolerance as they are, but we're going to try to make them a little bit tighter tolerance because the bushing that fits over top of this is it's a little bit sloppy. So that's the plan. So I hope you enjoyed the video here, but I went ahead and got a 2-inch bar stock cut. It looks like it's regular hot rolled. Nothing special about it. For testing purposes, it doesn't have to be heat treated or anything for wear. From what I understand, it's a slow moving shaft, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, just thought I would show you guys how to do an eccentric bushing on the lathe. So I got the jaws set up too, so we're ready to start. So with that said, guys, let's get into it. All right, so we're going to get this piece set up here in the lathe. Like I said, I pretty much have everything set. So each piece is roughly 1 inch long, so I want to stick it out about 3 inches or 3 1/4 or 3 3/4. So we'll just leave it 3 3/4. So we'll go ahead and get this tightened up. Then we'll bring our dial indicator down here too. This has scaling on it, so it's going to be a little bit rough, but it's not too terrible. Yeah, it's not too bad, and it don't have to be exact because we have a 1/4 inch we got to take off this anyway. And you can see we're a few thousandths in. We could get it closer if we wanted to, but honestly, there's no real reason to. See there, it's 1 thou over, 1 thou under, 1 thou, or right on. And then you can see even part way in between, you can see the needle drop down here, like there, in midway. And that's what you get with, whenever you get hot rolled, it's, the scaling, you get, this little bit of surface rust and stuff on it. So with that said, we're going to leave it there. So I'm just going to make sure all the jaws are tight. And they are. So let's start cutting. First thing we're going to do is face this off, and then we're going to take and cut this down to the 1.375, or I'm sorry, 1.75, 1 3/4. So we got the C&MG 432 insert, and we're going to run about 12 thousandths feed rate. So we'll see how that does and adjust if we have to. So Alright, it did clean up the whole way around. So what we're going to do is we're going to scale this off. So I'm going to scale it off to 2 1/4 inches. The pieces are 0.8. They're almost 0.9. So I'm figuring 2 inches plus, some cutoff width, which is 1/16 and 1/16. So we're going to stick with that. So I went ahead and set my 0 down here again. So this is my stop. We're going to start up and make a mark. And then we're going to go ahead and taking her down to 1.3 or 1.75. There's our witness mark, and then we'll scratch off, and then we're going to set our 0 down here. So we're going to try shoot for heavy cuts, but we'll see. I'm going to start with a 40 just to see. That's not very heavy, but let's see how well it does. I don't like it stringy like that. and we're going to get some chatter. So I'm going to have to take lighter feeds here because I cannot put a center in this because of the way the part is made. Really what I should have done is put it back in the jaw more so I had more strength here. So we're going to have to stick with relatively light cuts, unfortunately. Well, this will be our final cut here. So it's going to be a relatively light cut. Okay. Yeah, we are 1.5 thousandths over 1.375, so we are, yeah, we are there. I'm going to go ahead and polish that out, but if you noticed, I did switch cutters. I could not figure out what the chattern is. I ended up having to take lighter cuts. I even changed inserts. And I have this problem with this lathe sometimes whenever I don't have a center in the back of it. So I don't know if maybe my chuck needs readjusted, or you know, maybe the bearings are going bad in here and I'm getting more play, but it don't seem like it every time I check it. But anyway, with that said, guys, let's just start getting this turned into the 1.375 now. I think it's 160 thousandths deep. So we're going to reset our zero and everything, and then we'll get that cut in. Alright, so our next cut is this diameter is going to get turned down to 1.375 or a little bit over. I have the bushing here, so I'm going to test fit it and make sure it's a nice like slip fit, but like I said, it's slow turning, so there's no real motion on it. But I want it to be a nice fit, so but that needs cut in, and the tolerance is 0.812 to 0.820 depth. So that's this way here. So I have the dial indicator set to 0 here, and then what I'm going to do is run it down to 0.812. Now we're going to set this guy back to 0. So that's our stop. Alright, so now we can get started on cutting, and just to give you a visual, there's what the depth is what I meant. So this is 1.75, and now we need to cut this shoulder down to 1.375. So we have a few thousandths here to come off, so let's get started. Alright, so I'm going to set my dial down here to 0, and then I'm going to go ahead and back this out to clean up this surface here, because we know we're getting pretty much where we want to be here. So alright, so let's mic this. We should be 3 thou, or right around that. And look at that, we're just over, actually only about a thou, or a thou and a half, maybe 2. Yeah, so we're actually a little closer than what I thought we would be. I think we're still alright though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to polish this a little bit and see if we can get that bearing to fit. Fortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you that bearing. I was told I wasn't allowed. Alright, let's see how much we took off by just sanding it there. And we took off a few tenths there. We're just a hair under 1/1000ths now. So I'm going to see if the bushing fits. Okay, I did some more polish and stuff here, and I got this guy here. If you look, He is 1.375 and he is 1.3750, so it's exactly 1.375 inches, which I'm kind of glad. That's actually what I was shooting for, is plus or minus no tenths, 1.375. So here's the actual bushing that goes over top of this, and you can see it goes up on fine. And if you're asking why this is a little bit loose, so what the normal process of this is this gets pressed into another piece. Well, whenever it gets pressed in, it actually shrinks the ID of this due to pressing it into a smaller hole. Well, then it's burnished to a certain size after that. So what I'm doing here is I know what the burnished numbers are. Well, they're 1.376, so I'm only leaving 1/1000ths of clearance here. Actually, some of them are 1.375 and some tenths, so I'm only leaving tenths to maybe 1,000 slop, and that's what I was really shooting for. So if you look at some of these this one here, this one is 1,000ths and 6/10 under, and that's too much slop. We're getting too much play. So the plan is if we tighten up this, make this a little bit bigger, we get rid of the slop in this fixture. So with that said, guys, I can show you the bushing, but I can't show you the other parts. But the next thing we're going to do is now we're going to offset this and see what happens here. So to offset this is we're going to actually push these jaws this way, and we need it offset by 1/4 of an inch. So before I do that, I'm going to break this corner here. I'm going to break this one, even though I don't really need to yet. And then we'll go ahead and start offsetting this. So let's try offsetting this. And I'm moving it slow purposely because these jaws are going to come I shouldn't say come undone, but they're not really going to be holding a whole lot. So I'm leaving these ones tight, so hopefully it moves only horizontally, but we got to check that afterwards here too. 50,000ths to go. So there's 0. So right there would be 100. There's 200, 300, 400, and 480. So we're almost there. Just a hair over 1,000. Or I'm sorry, a hair over 0. So probably about half a tenth. So that to me is good enough. So I'm going to double check it off camera here just to make sure I am there. But you can see on the dial there that we are there. So hang tight. Alright, so I did double checked everything and it was there. I actually didn't have to move it at all, which I was very happy with. Sometimes you get confused on stuff. So our next cut in is 379 to 382 thousandths. So we're going to set it to 380. So there's 1, 2, 3. And then there's 80. Alright, then we're going to set this back to 0. And then the way it should look is that should be the thickness of the bushing, which it pretty much is. So let's start getting this cut in. And it's going to look weird because it's offset like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to touch off here. Looks like we just hit right there, so we'll start with a light cut. We'll only go in 10,000ths, or I mean 20,000ths. Okay, and you can see what's happening is right there is the only thing we're cutting right now. So I'm just going to keep whittling away at it here, and so either hang tight or skip forward here. Well, you can see we're getting really close to size here, but you can see how the offset's working here. I think I got about 30-40 thousandths yet to come off, but we are getting close. Okay, that should be pretty much into tolerance. Might have to sand it just a little bit. That is 873 on the nose right there. So with a little bit of sanding, we'll be in the 87. It's just a hair over 873, so it's supposed to be 873, 874. So with a little bit of polishing, it's the size. So worked out great. And if you can see, it was supposed to be just scratching that surface whenever it finally become round. If you look at the old one, you can see it's basically just scratching that surface. And so the offset is definitely right, and everything's to size. So we're going to go ahead and get this whole board through here too. That's going to be a 1/2 inch hole, so we can get a 1/2 inch broach down through that. But otherwise, that's pretty much it on this part. Get a center in here. Alright, and that's about all the deep where we need it, so I'll go ahead and get this all deburred and we'll get it cut off and we'll be ready to broach. Alright guys, so we got the first one made, and you can see it turned out pretty good. Here's what it was comparable to, and the only thing that's left to do with this is put that square broach in there, and that's being delivered today, so I will get that in there later on today. But whenever I was cutting this, you guys might have noticed whenever I was setting the 0.25 offset, and what I was getting to is it's 0.25 from center of the hole to the center of this. So whenever you check that, it's actually a 1/2 inch from here to here offset. So that's why you've actually seen a 1/2 inch, but really it is only a 1/4 inch offset, but you know, just the way it is. So we're actually zeroed everything back out now. So what we're going to do is, like I said, start on this one here. So the first cut is going to be this one here at 1.375, and then I think the depth is 0.812 to 0.820. So we're going to get started here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take a face-off pass. I'm not worried about that little drill point that was in there before, but I'm going to cut a little bit of it off, but it's so I can set my zero down here. So let's get started. And that actually did clean up. You can see just a little bit of it there. So now we're going to go our 8-1-2. So, and then we're going to set this back at 0. So that's our stop. And I'm going to do the same thing as before. Is I'm going to put a little bit of line there so I can kind of get a visual of where my stop is too. Set my 0 down here. Okay, we're going to stop there and take a measurement here. If you notice, I'm taking a lot heavier cuts now, and I got the RPM back up. And the main reason why is because I am chucked a little bit farther back now, and also it's not sticking out as far. So that first piece was chattering because it was sticking out far, and the downfall is like I said, I couldn't put a center in it. So That's why you see I'm taking 40 to 60 thousandths cuts now, and it's taking it no problem. I actually think I could probably go more, but I think I'm going to stick with that. All right, so we still have 100 and some thousandths to come off. All right, let's check this now. I'm shooting for 1.375 again on the nose. And I am 2 thousandths over. That's actually exactly where I wanted to be because I can get that sanded and polished in. All right. So let's get this polished in. Let's see how close that got us. 5/10 there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get this polished out, and then we'll start our offset. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get the offset put in because there's nothing else we need to do here for turning. Normally, whenever I go to offset, I'll explain a little bit more than I did the first time here, is I always try to line the jaw up close to the dowel indicator, and then we'll start offsetting this. So all we're going to do is move the 1. Actually, I should do it this way. There's 100, 200, 300, 400, and I'm over just a little bit, not much. All right, so I don't know how well you guys can see that, but so right there, it's just a hair under 0. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and here's 5. And it's just a hair over 0. So it's close enough to be in what I want. So we're going to start cutting, but you can see there's the offset. So we're going to make sure it's square again, and that's pretty easy. That's moving a few tenths that way. Yeah, it's a few tenths that way. So it's pretty much squared up in here already, so I'm not going to mess with it. So let's get this, start getting this cut. All right, so we got our 1/4 inch offset. And remember, this is from center to center, so that's only one side, so you have to double it. So that's why we're seeing a 1/2 inch offset now. So what I did here is brought my cutter up and touched the face of the surface here and set my 0 down here. Because this depth of the cut is 379 to 381. So we're going to back this out again, and we're going to go our 370. Actually, we're going to go 380. So there's 1, 2, 3. And then there's our 80. Then we're going to set this back at 0. And that's going to be our stop. All right, so with that said, guys, let's start cutting. Let's take a measurement. I am 873 and some tenths. So what we're going to do is we're going to back it out to clean up this surface here, and then we're just going to go ahead and polish that guy in. And there you go. There's an offset, another offset bushing. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get this 1/2 inch hole drilled down through here for our broach that's on its way. All right, let's get this hole drilled. All right, and there you go. So I'm going to take this out and cut it off in the saw, and then we'll face it in the other lathe, or the back side of it in the other lathe real quick, and then we'll just wait for the broach to get here, and we'll get it broached. All right, so the broach come in, so we're just gonna go ahead and broach this. So one of my thoughts is we're gonna try it. I'm gonna use this one here as kind of a guide, so that gets broached in the right spot. It's I don't know how else I can do it easily, so that was one of my thoughts, is we'd just do it this way. I don't see why it wouldn't work, so we're just going to give it a shot, trying to make sure that it is going to be in the center of that hole. So my thought was, we'll line it up that way, and then we'll take a square and line it up and make sure that they're just like that, make sure that they're lined up that way. It can be off just a little bit, it just can't be off a lot. I can be a few minutes, or a few seconds off. That's not going to hurt anything. Like I said, this is for testing purposes from what I understood, so this is how we're going to do it. I know it's not really the right way, but it'll work for what we're doing here. So let's get some oil on this. Make sure we get some on the back side, and make sure we're lined up still. And a lot of times you leave the pressure off these broaches like that, because look how far you're sticking out. You want to make sure that it's not binding or twisting or anything. You don't want to break that broach. They're expensive. And the drill size for that, by the way, is 17/32. I had it drilled to 1/2 inch, so I had to go ahead and get it re-drilled out to the right size. I was not aware of that whenever I drilled that originally. So we have to take our guide off here so we can get enough travel. And it shouldn't be much more that it has to go through, because it's pretty much there now. And there it is. So there's the broach. There you go, the square hole. If we did it right, they should be exactly the same, or very, very close. So I'm going to do the same thing for the second one, and these parts will be done. Alright guys, well, you guys just see me broaching these two out. That was the last process on here, other than deburring. I already did run the file across and everything and deburr everything, but I wanted to point out, this is a 1/2 inch broach, and on the bottom here, it tells you what drill size to use. Most broaches do that if you didn't have it a chart or whatever. But let's put this away. But like I said, here's the original. This is the one we were copying, and you can see all the features in it. It's a relatively small part. And here are the two that we made, and you can see they are identical to the one that we copied. And the only other thing that is different between them is the original, it had this little pin that went through this side. It's right there. I don't need that in here. They told me I didn't need that in there for testing purposes. And what that is so you don't put it on the shaft in the incorrect order. But since I'm going to be the one assembling it for him, there's no reason why I can't put it on the right way. But there you guys have it. There's how to do an offset, or basically these are cams in a lathe. It's not really that hard. You can make crankshafts or small little toys and whatever, if you wanted to make stuff like that, if you wanted to make a small engine or something like that, You can do it this way. You can use these as cams for on steam engines. You can use these for a lot of different things, you know, if you need to. But you almost need a 4-jaw chuck to do it, or you need a face plate. You can do that, and then you just clamp it to it and then zero everything out with your indicators and everything like that. But there are limitations to that. You can't get your offset too far one way or the other with your 4-jaw. They're just not, there's no way to clamp sometimes whenever you get past that. So if I got all the way over here, I wouldn't be able to clamp on that bar stock because these jaws would be off the material. So there is that. So there is limitations to that. But anyway, so I hope you guys learned something. And please hit that like and subscribe button if you can. And then until next time, take care.